So speaking over in front of August gathering for today's lecture meeting as to welcome you all. So on behalf of Institution of Engineers and Marine Engineering Division of West Bengal State Center, I'd like to welcome all, particularly our guest speakers, panelists, Mr. S.K. Sarkar, Arun Kumar Singh, Amit Bhatnagar, and Abhijit Banerjee, our President, Vice President, and all our corporate members. As you know, institution has been serving the engineering fraternity over a century, and we have just completed this century. This is our 101st year, 102nd year, which is national and international presence through Indian and overseas chapter with 15 engineering disciplines and a corporate member about 3 lakhs. And IAI also did many things in the nation, and the time was there when young engineers used to join to give their facility in their professional career, right? And I, on behalf of West Bengal State Center, I would like to request that please come more and more and participate in this Institute of Engineers so that we can go ahead further. We can be the first in the world about our membership, about our activity. Now, let us come back to today's session. Hope you are aware that we are passing through a situation when our existence becomes questionable since a couple of years. The worldwide pandemic situation, what we had, and even also it is continuing, though the strength has become less. So we were forced to have this technical, offline session to online webinar form. We have started our offline session slowly, and all the schools and colleges are open now, and we will be slowly turning back to offline sessions. But meanwhile, some webinar also is being continued so that we can get your kind participation and support and suggestions in all respects. Now, in regulators and other stakeholders in the maritime industry are intensifying their efforts to cut greenhouse gas emissions from shipping. The IMO, as the international regulatory body, set a greenhouse gas reduction strategy in 2018, you know all. One of the goals is to achieve a reduction in carbon intensity of 40% by 2030 compared to 2008 level. The target is to reduce GHG emissions by improving vessels, energy efficiency, as well as introducing new technologies and low to zero carbon fuels. Today, our panelists will discuss upon this intensity count indicator CII, right? Let us enrich our knowledge through this technical discussion to know more and more in this area. Before we end, as you know, today is the World Earth Day. So it is exactly the Marine Engineering Division has selected the day for this particular topic on the particular Earth Day, when we are taking the oath for saving our Earth, doing something for our Earth, so that we can give a green Earth to the future generation. With this, I conclude here. Let us enrich our knowledge in this maritime industries, how it can be done, and we can make it more friendly and more, pollution free. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your warm welcome address towards the August gathering and the dignitaries. May I now request Commander Dr. Bhaskar M. Bhandarkar, the Chairman, Marine Engineering Division Board, to please deliver his address. Sir.
Good evening, everybody. Honorable Dr. Hemant Thackeray, President, Institution of Engineers, India, who has more than 4 decades of dedicated contribution for the glory of this institution. Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Dev, Vice President, a young blood with lot of innovative ideas. Engineer Amir Bhatnagar, Vice President, Institution of Marine Engineers. Another visionary, Dr. Ranganathan, Chairman, Committee for Advancement of Technology and Engineering, under whose direction we are proceeding and doing wonderful things in the coming years. Dr. Nirmal Das, Chairman, West Bengal State Center, Mr. Raju Basar, Honorary Secretary, West Bengal, Mr. Abhijit Banerjee, Honorary Secretary, Institution of Marine Engineers, Kolkata Chapter, distinguished faculty, my friend, Mr. S.K. Sarkar, who is from Mercantile Marine Department, very rich experience. Mr. Arun Kumar from the IMU, and my friend, Mr. Gautam Sen, who has been instrumental for this webinar today, office bearer of institutions and dear participants. Good evening. My greetings to you all on the World Health Day. It's a wonderful gesture by the marine engineers from city of Calcutta to organize webinar today, this day, on a very important topic related to Mother Earth. As all of you know, marine transportation drives global trade. More than 10 billion tons of containers, solid and liquid bulk cargo across the world each annually. About 90% of world's trade is transported by the sea. So here it is advantage and the problems as well. But the cost of this to environment is enormous. Every year, these container ships flying the world's waterways spew about 1 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide into the air, which is phenomenal. About 3% of all greenhouse gas emissions. We know accidental oil spills in 1960s caused widespread coastal pollution and seabird mortality. This triggered the International Convention for Prevention of Pollution from Ships, in short, MARPOL. The International Maritime Organization, they use various instruments to protect the marine environment from shipping activities. Nevertheless, marine transportation still generates negative impacts on the marine environment, including air pollution, greenhouse gas emissions. It releases of ballast water containing aquatic invasive species, use of antifoulants, oil and chemical spills, dry bulk cargo, etc. The IMO, as already mentioned by Dr. Nirmal Das, is an international body. It has set greenhouse gas reduction strategy in 2018. It aims to achieve reduction in carbon intensity of 40% by 2030, another just 8 years. which is compared to the 2008 levels. The target is to reduce emissions by improving vessels' energy efficiency as well as introducing new technology and low zero carbon fuels. In June 2021, the IMO adopted extensive CO2 regulation applicable to existing ships. Now we know out of all the green gases, CO2 has a percentage of 80%, while other fluorinated gases 3%, nitrous 7%, and methane 10%. So the most dangerous thing is CO2 80%. And to address these problems, IMO has 3-level strategy. One, to improve the technical efficiency, which comes under energy efficiency existing ship index, known as EEXI. The other level of efforts are the operational level to improve operational level efficiency, known as carbon intensity indicator. And the third is the management of energy on board ship, which is Ship Energy Management Plan, SIMP. The shipping industry as a whole is committed to total decarbonization by 2050. That has created urgency among ship owners to meet the deadline. And mind you, one way they have to earn profit, the other way they have to take care of Mother Earth. For individual shipping companies, the issue will become existential because if you don't abide with the regulations, which are fairly strictly enforced by now and going to be enforced with all means in future, thus the shipping companies lagging behind will not be able to trade. I am confident that distinguished speakers, there is a beautiful combination. Mr. Sarkar is from MMD, the regulator. My friend Mr. Amit Bhatnagar is from the Class Society, and our friend Mr. Arun Kumar from the university, from the academics. And I am sure they will enlighten us on the important subject. Once again, I thank organizers, Marine Division Board, and our staff at Institution of Engineers for their excellent efforts in organizing this seminar. Thank you very much. Thank you, Indes. God bless you. Shana Varna.
Kingshuk. Kingshuk, are you there?
Yeah, okay.
So I request Mr. Gautam Sen, you please take over and continue the program.
Okay. Okay.
My camera, how to mute?
Next is, I would request now Dr. H.O. Thakare, President IEI, to kindly deliver his presidential address. Over to Dr. H.O. Thakare, please.
Thank you, sir. Eminent panelists of the session, Mr. Amit Bhatnagar ji, Vice President, Institute of Marine Engineers, Mr. S.K. Sarkar, Ex-Director in Charge, Indian Maritime University and Secretary, Association of Ex-Cadets of DMET, Calcutta, Arun Kumar Singh, Faculty, Department of Marine Engineering, Indian Maritime University, Moderator of the session, Mr. Abhijit Banerjee, Honorary Secretary, Institute of Marine Engineers, Kolkata branch, our Vice President, Mr. Sandeep Kumar Dev, CATE Chairman, Professor G. Ranganath, Marine Engineering Division Board Chairman Commander Dr. Bhaskar Bhandarkar, Dr. Nirmal Das, Chairman West Bengal State Center, Dr. Raju Basak, Honorary Secretary West Bengal State Center, Gautam Singh, Convener of Marine Engineering Division West Bengal State Center, Director Technical Saxena ji, corporate members, attendees, student delegates, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to all and greetings of World Earth Day. I consider it a great opportunity for all of us to be a part of the technical webinar on improvement of carbon intensity index for ships being organized by West Bengal State Center under the aegis of Marine Engineering Division. The effort of the institution has always been to keep its members informed and abreast about the latest engineering and technological developments occurring in national and international arena through organizing technical events on the regular basis involving eminent professionals and practitioners. Over its last hundreds of years of existence, the institution has provided valuable solutions and policy inputs to the policymakers contributing to the national growth. For the last 2 years, restrictions due to pandemic, technical webinars are being conducted by the institution on contemporary topics regularly, which provides a virtual knowledge sharing platform for our members and many other professionals attached to the trade. The Institution of Engineers India has conducted approximately 125 technical webinars within the last 2 years, with comprehensive coverage of various engineering topics which have witnessed enthusiastic participation from a wide range of professionals. The carbon intensity index measures how efficiently a ship transports goods or passengers and is expressed in grams of carbon dioxide emitted per cargo carrying capacity and nautical mile. The ship is then given an annual rating ranging from A to E, whereby the rating threshold will become increasingly stringent towards 2030. The International Maritime Organization has approved draft regulations aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emission from international shipping and improving the energy efficiency of vessels. The proposed measures seek to regulate both the design and operational efficiency of relevant vessels and present numerous commercial and legal challenges for all the main stakeholders in the physical transport chain. In line with the greenhouse gas emission strategy, the Marine Environment Protection Committee, that is MEPC, has approved draft regulations aimed at reducing GHG emissions from the global shipping industry by at least 40% by the year 2030. This webinar is being organized involving renowned experts from industry and academia to discuss and highlight the pertinent issues of the role of the maritime sector in reducing vessels' carbon emission, roadmap to achieve decarbonization targets for the shipping industry, significance and interpretation of the regulations, namely energy efficiency existing ship index and carbon intensity index. The deliberation on these issues are expected to provide us more insights and leave us enriched on the subject. I hope that the discussions during the webinar will encompass all facets of the subject holistically involving all stakeholders. We are all eager to hear from the experts on this emerging topic, and I hope everybody will get enlightened by their presentations. I wish this seminar all success. Thank you one, and thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Shen, you are muted. You first unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Thakare, President IEI. Now I request Engineer Sandeep Dev, Vice President IEI, to deliver his lecture. Mr. Dev,
Good evening, President Dr. Hemant Thakare, our good friend, Chairman of Co2, Dr. G. Ranganath, our good friend in the Council and the Chairman of the Marine Engineering Division Board, Dr. Bhaskar Bhandarkar, Mr. Amit Bhatnagar, Vice President of IMAE, Mr. Arun Kumar Singh, Mr. S.K. Sarkar, our Director Technical and Examination, Dr. Saxena, the chairman of West Bengal State Center, Dr. Nirmal Das, Dr. Raju Bosak, Honorary Secretary, and the man behind the entire program, Mr. Gautam Shen, the chairman of Marine Engineering Division Committee of West Bengal State Center. Well, I believe you have already understand the uniqueness of Institution of Engineers India. I believe that you have never seen that in a webinar, the top-notch of institution joined. The president of Institution of Engineers has joined. The chairman of the CATE has joined. The chairman of the Marine Engineering Division Board has joined. This is really unique. I must congratulate all of you to encourage the marine engineers all over the world, all over the country by your presence. Thank you very much, sirs, for your presence. And I must congratulate Mr. Gautam Shen for involving the Institute of Marine Engineers and as well as the your Indian Maritime University and the old cadres, because without their presence, marine engineering, this program can never be so successful. In fact, we have taken a decision in the council. We have decided that in all such programs, we would like to involve all the similar kind of institutions and organizations who are working in the same line as of our Institution of Engineers. That is propagation of science and technology and the innovations which are taking place in different engineering fields. And marine engineering is one of them. Thank you to all of you for joining here in this evening. And before I conclude, I am not a marine engineer. But even then, as a common person, I would like to tell and to hear from you. I have a suggestion that when we are talking about the reduction of carbon emission, not only in vessels, but from all kinds of the engineering activities which are taking place all over the world, and we are looking for alternative energy. Because you see, if we can produce alternative energy which gives us less emission, less carbon dioxide, definitely the earth will be safer day by day. And we are looking for the use of solar as much as possible. So it's a wild thought. Can you use solar panels in the marine vessels? Because, there may be some, now the airport, these people, and everywhere we are starting using solar panel as a alternate source of energy. So can't we try to use solar panel in big marine vessels where there is lots of area which can be used? I don't know whether it is possible or not, but thank you once again very much for joining the IEI Marine Engineering webinar, and I'm eagerly looking to hear from the experts. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dev. Very kind of you to say so many good words about marine engineering. Now I request Mr. G. Ranganath, Chairman CATE, to deliver his lecture, please.
Thank you, Gautam Shen, sir. Respected President of IEI, Dr. Co2 Emissions, good friend of me, Sandeep Kumar Dev, the Vice President of IEI, as well, Chairman of Untitled Division Board, my good friend of me from the Council, Commander Dr. Bhaskar M. Bhandarkar, the Chairman of the Marine Division Board, Nirmal Das, Chairman of West Bengal State Center, who is good enough to take this program, along with his committee members, eminent speakers who all the way came from different fields. I should thank our Chairman Bhandarkar ji to identify this type of speakers to bring for technical webinars. It is very difficult to bring this type of speakers even for regular seminars or conventions. But he brought different speakers for this technical webinar. Amit Bhatnagar ji, SK Sarkar ji, both are in different domains. Then academician A.K. Singhji, who is a university faculty, and all three are very elder in nature and seniors in their profession. Then Abhijit Kumar, who is Honorary Secretary as well as a moderator for this wonderful program. Honorary Secretary of this West Bengal State Center, Raju Basak. My headquarters staff members, Dr. Saxena, Director Technical in charge, and Kingsu, who is the Assistant Director. All participants from the field of marine for this wonderful program of technical webinar. All the committee members of West Bengal State Center representing different divisions. Good evening to all of you. I am so happy and it is an immense pleasure for me to be part of this wonderful program arranged by Marine Division. And already Nirmal Das has said regarding this institution of Century Old institution, and a chairman is endorsed and a president is highlighted. Here my appeal to all these experts, especially including our S.K. Singhji, who is an academician from the university. My appeal to all of you, sir, being it is a century old institution, Marine Division is a bigger division in the country, no doubt in that. Beyond we are seeing overseas, but in the country itself, coming from Bombay, Goa, then again Gujarat sides, Maharashtra sides, again coming to Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, like this is keep on moving. A big number of domains are there, works is there, and big number of engineers are working in different locations. But being this is the century-old institution, still domain is in a very smaller way. A small number of members are there. So all of you are going to use your good office, encouraging budding engineers in your own domains, telling to regarding II, being century-old institution, and for all information, life membership fees is very, very nominal when compared to so many other professional bodies. Even which is in century-old or less than that, no one is keeping this fees. Life membership fees is very, very nominal. My appeal to all the members, my appeal to all these experts, use your good office, encourage all budding engineers, and our SK Singh Saab, who is an academician in the university, thinks every year he can add a good number of peoples. Of late from decade, I was told good number of institutions taking a birth in the country who are offering a graduation in the field of this marine engineering. Institutions are there in Chennai, institutions are there in Bombay, institutions are in Calcutta. So good number of institutions are taking a birth. So good number of graduates are coming, good number of graduates are working, but still they are not coming forward to become members of this prestigious institution, Institute of Engineers, which is century old. This is my humble appeal to all of you. Not only as a CATA chairman, as a corporate member of this body, I am very happy to appeal you. Coming to the topic of today, a wonderful topic, improvement of carbon intensity index for ships. As a good friend of me, Sandeep, the Vice President, say, we are not from marine, but till we can just throw some light here and there. Maritime transport is a vital sector for global economy, since a major percentage of freight is transported by ships. It is a well-known fact in the entire globe. This is also the most energy efficient and sustainable mode of transport of goods from environment perspective. However, the carbon dioxide emission caused due to used maritime traffic is a key factor to monitor and control, to sustain and improve the air quality, which is already our Bandarkar ji was giving a data regarding emission, transportation, quantity, etc. Ports in particular represent certainly a concentrated area of marine transport, significantly affecting environmental quality and human health in the neighboring areas. For this, my friend again, Sandeep Dev, was giving some alternative, innovative ideas for getting a power generation there by using our diesel and diesel engines. Why can't to tap the energy from the solar so that pollution can be controlled, carbon dioxide emission be controlled, And again, even economically, financially, we can have benefit over it. Like this, certainly wonderful ideas will come from maybe architect, maybe civil engineer, mechanical engineer, electrical engineers, all are there. But certainly marine also need all these people's contribution and commitments. For the last few years, as a concern about air pollution increases, several legislative measures have been taken at an international level, and especially IMO has set up and maintained comprehensive regulatory framework, particularly for the shipping. With this, I believe that today's technical webinar on improvement of carbon intensity index for ships being organized on this virtual platform today is going to give a lot of benefit for all the participants who are having a lot of anxiety listening to good speakers, and engineers and professionals who are going to attend this, and stakeholders in gaining comprehensive insight in the field of reduction of greenhouse gases in maritime sector. With this again, let me thank the chairman of Commander Bhaskar M. Bhandarkarji. Let me thank Nirmal Das, chairman of State Center. And let me thank my president and vice presidents who made me to be with you as the chairman of CATE. With this, let me thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Now, it is my duty to sort of, as the chairman of Institution of Marine Engineers, Institution of Engineers, Marine Division, to give a brief introduction of the panelist. Okay, so I think I'll do that. Now, theme of the webinar is improvement of carbon intensity index for ships. There are three speakers, all are very illustrious figures in the marine field. First is Mr. S.K. Sarkar. His topic is marine system design to curtail GHG emission. Now, a brief introduction of Mr. Sarkar. Professor Sadhan Kumar Sarkar has 29 years of teaching experience in marine engineering design. He also has 12 years of experience as chief engineer at sea with India Steamship Company Limited, Calcutta, Mercury Shipping Company Limited, Hong Kong, etc. Professor S.K. Sarkar has served shore-based industries, including brewery consultancy for manufacturing of equipment for large power plants and shipyard. During his tenure in shore-based industry, he was mainly engaged in expansion projects. Professor Sarkar has authored various technical papers at Institution of Engineers and other seminars. He has authored the first textbook in India on design and operation of marine machinery and systems. He is consultant on Inland Water Transport Department. He is an examiner with Government of India for Marine Engineer Officers, and Mr. Sarkar is also the Secretary of Association of Ex-Cadets of DMT. Mr. Sarkar that is what is in brief his introduction. I mean, all of us know about all the details of him, but I mean, for anyone who's not from marine, I mean, that's why I had to give it, but otherwise it's not required. Second speaker is Mr. A.K. Singh. His topic is search for carbon-free energy. Credentials in brief. Mr. Arun Kumar Singh has about 42 years long sea service in his credit, mostly as chief engineer. He is an expert in operation of tankers and bulk carriers. He is working as faculty in the Department of Marine Engineering at Indian Maritime University, Kolkata campus for last 6 years. That is Mr. A.K. Singh. And the last one, of course, needs no introduction, Mr. Amit Bhatnagar. His topic is implementation of amendments to MARPOL Annex 6. I mean, he needs no introduction, but anyway, since I have to give it, so I have to give it like, you see. So Mr. Amit Bhatnagar is Senior Principal Surveyor and Head IR Class Academy. He also holds additional charge of Regional Manager, West Coast of India and Sri Lanka at Indian Register of Shipping, IRS. He joined IRS in 2002 at Goa and served at Fujian, China, IRS Head Office, Mumbai, Singapore, Visakhapatnam and Kolkata before taking up the present assignment. Mr. Bhatnagar holds postgraduate degree in naval architecture. The Institute of Engineers India recognized his contribution to the marine industry and presented him Eminent Marine Engineers Award in 2014. He has been conferred with Vijay Rattan Gold Medal, Indian Business Excellence Award, and Star of Asia Award in 2015. Now, as the chairman of IEI Marine Division West Bengal State Committee, chairman of IMARI Institute of Marine Engineers India Kolkata branch, and one of the mentors of ex-cadets of DMET, I welcome you all to the webinar. Hope we all will benefit from the deliberations of the illustrious panel of speakers. So now I request the first speaker, Mr. S.K. Sarkar, please. Mr. S.K. Sarkar.
Yes, thank you, sir. I'll just first screen my presentation, share my screen, and then I'll start. Hope the screen can be seen.
Sir, can you make it full screen, sir?
Yeah, I'll make it. Yeah, can it be seen?
Yes, sir, it is coming. Thank you.
I'm full screen. Okay. Dr. Thackeray, President, Institute of Engineers, India. Engineer, Mr. S.K. Dev, Vice President. Dr. Ranganath, Chairman, CATE. Dr. Nirmal Das, Chairman, West Bengal State Center. Dr. Bhatnagar, Chairman, MRDB. Dr. Saxena, Director Technical. Other dignitaries, respected members, and my friends. A very good evening to all of you. Today's theme is improvement of carbon intensity index for ship. And there are 3 panelists, and I have been given the responsibility to talk on marine system design to curtail greenhouse gas emission. So all of you can see the presentation. Today, even a school student has got concept of what is greenhouse gas, what is global warming. So we are not talking anything new. But before I go into marine aspects, just want to throw little light on this issue. Greenhouse gases warm the earth by absorbing energy and slowing the rate at which energy escapes to space. This is like a blanket. And different greenhouse gases have different effects on the Earth's warming. There are 2 effects. One is radiative efficiency of the greenhouse gas and the lifetime, how long the gas stay in the atmosphere. These are the 2 areas, 2 properties that gives that how much warming this greenhouse gas will cause to the earth. This, greenhouse gas emission, yes, of course, when there were fire in the forest, yes, CO2 was emitted. Emission of CO2 is nothing new. But this warming initiated by industrial revolution in 19th century and subsequent growth of world population. Demand and production of energy from fossil fuels have increased rapidly in the recent years. Till now we were safe, we were not careful, but now it has become very rapid. It has begun to skyrocket after 1950s. Global temperature has increased by 1.1 degrees centigrade between 1850 to 2017. These are the findings of research. Here we can see how the CO2 emission, you can see that CO2 emission has skyrocketed like this. 1800 if we say 1800 if we say 0, today it has gone to 7,000 million tons of CO2 being released. And you see the steep rise, and it is very alarming. This is another graph showing some data that from 1959 till 2019, see there's a continuous rise. And now, luckily, we have been careful enough to make it little steady. Not only steady, we have to reduce it. This is showing that ppm of accumulation of CO2 in the atmosphere. And this is the ppm, and this side is year. 2020, it is around 420 ppm, and it started from 300. So the 28% increase from 1959 to 2019. Now, if we don't stop this increment of CO2, see, there are various greenhouse gases, what was told earlier in the introduction, but the CO2, 80% CO2 we are emitting. Though, see, the important greenhouse CO2 carbon dioxide comes on top, but its global warming potential is only 1. Potential is very low. But what is alarming is the volume of CO2, quantity of CO2 which is coming into the atmosphere. There are other gases like methane 21, nitrous oxide 310, hydrofluorocarbons which are for the refrigeration. They are 11,700, PFC 6,500 to 9,000. Another sulfur hexafluoride which is used for the equipments, for the high tension equipments, switch gears, that is very high, about 23,000. Like that, there are thousands of greenhouse gases, but CO2 we are emitting a large quantity, and which is most harmful for us. Now, what are the effects of environmental effects of this greenhouse gas? And when I say greenhouse gas, please consider it as CO2 only. Okay. Melting of polar ice caps and rising of sea level, changes to ecosystems, acidity of our oceans, species extinction, extreme meteorological phenomena. This, all of us in our daily life, we are facing these things. It is nothing new, but only thing we don't care for it, other than just discussions in seminars. As per study of Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, global warming of more than 1.5 degrees centigrade would cause unprecedented climatic consequences, such as bigger and more intense storms, rain followed by more prolonged and intense droughts, etc. These extreme weather events could be more frequent and intense and have irreversible repercussions on the environment. In Calcutta, we have, not in Calcutta, in India, we have recently in the last year, frequent storms coming, untimely rains, that is causing harm to our environment, our agriculture, our day-to-day life. So these are the bad effects which we are facing every day. Now, this has caused a global war. Instead of global warming, we say global warming. It is a warning. If we do not reduce greenhouse gas emission, the melting of ice caps would cause average rise of sea level of around 82 centimeter by the year 2100 as a result of global warming. And most interesting is that a major part of coastal West Bengal and West Bengal, Bangladesh, like Sundarban areas, and many other coastal areas of the world will be submerged due to this global warming. And that will have very adverse effect on the life of human beings. So what do we expect from the industry for this? Business carbon offsetting can be done in following ways: conduct awareness campaigns, improving energy efficiency. We do not use inefficient machinery, consuming renewable energy, transition to renewable energy, and search for carbon-free fuel. This is very important. The latest thought for carbon-free fuel. I will be mainly covering this area, improving energy efficiency. Okay. And my co-speaker, Mr. Arun Kumar Singh, will be talking on search for carbon-free fuel and renewable energy. Our Vice President asked that can we use solar panels on the ships? Certainly, we use. And there was an experimental ship, of course, very low capacity, which went all over the world on solar power. It was built in Japan. There is a Japanese effort to see how effectively we can use the solar power. And we are using. There are cases where we are using solar power. Not only solar, other renewable energy also we are using. Now, what is the strategy of International Maritime Organization? Basically, shore people, they don't care for, they have very vague idea about the maritime industry. But maritime industry is doing a lot to save the environment. And for that, MARPOL annexes are there. There are many annexes of MARPOL, which try to prevent pollution of the environment by the shipping operation. The strategies are to reduce CO2 emission through energy efficient measures, not only CO2, sulfur dioxide, SOx, NOx, and others also. Here it is. Reduce SOx through use of low sulfur fuel, reduce NOx emission through improved engine design, use power from solar, wind, and ocean currents. This ocean currents, there's weather routing, that's something called weather routing, which uses the currents and winds. Okay. And use of carbon-free fuel. Decarbonization of maritime industry. Steps so far taken by IMO. In 2013, the International Maritime Organization, IMO, introduced Energy Efficiency Design Index for ships, EEDI. So what is EEDI? EEDI measure for carbon efficiency, like how much carbon you are releasing to the atmosphere per unit transport work. That is ton miles of cargo carried. How much CO2, that is a measure. And every ship, when at the design stage only, the shipbuilder has to assure IMO or administration that we will not release more than this amount of CO2 in that. New ships built after 1st January 2015 are required to limit CO2 emission to a maximum value depending on the type of ship, size, and the year of build. In fact, it came into force in 2013. There is a relief for 2 years. And from 2015 onwards, every 5 years, they are tightening the level of CO2 release into the atmosphere. This is given by EEDI. I'm not going into details. There are calculations how you find out EEDI required, EEDI attained, actually what we have done, and EEOI, energy efficiency operational and indicator. That is your actual performance. What are you actually doing? IMO also required all ships to develop and implement shipboard energy efficiency management plan, SHIM, with effect from 1st January 2013. Now the ships which are being built with effect from January 2015, they are having a EEDI, required EEDI. But what of the ships which are already built? The only thing they can do, they can operate their ships in environment friendly way, release less CO2. That is the EEOI. So for that, shipping company are required to develop a plan, shipboard energy efficiency management plan, and implement it. Okay, for that training is to be given. That is what we are doing in the Education Institute during training, awareness programs. So that is another issue where EEDI was not implemented, applicable. Now, what are the targets of IMO? IMO target is that by 2030, the IMO aims to reduce vessels' carbon emission per unit transport work by at least 40% by 2030 of the 2008 level, and at least 70% by 2050. Now, this should be done in parallel with an overall reduction of greenhouse gas emission, about 50% across the sector by 2050. So carbon emission will reduce by 70%, overall greenhouse gas emission will reduce by 50% by 2050. Now, from the research, it has been found that we are in a very bad shape. Whatever steps IMO has taken is not adequate. Is the EEDI adequate? Answer is no. That's why they have come out with further control. Let us take an example. One existing bulk carrier, 1 lakh ton bulk carrier, very common, 1 lakh ton bulk carrier, DWT, built in January 2015. According to the EEDI requirement, she can release 356 kgs of CO2 per nautical mile, if we calculate the requirement, while operating in 2025. That ship which was built 2015, after 10 years, it can release this amount of CO2 per ton mile of carbon. Now, a ship which is built in 2025, January, according to requirement, there's a graphs given. So that ship will be allowed to release only 277.45 kgs CO2. Now see, 2 ships operating, both are as per IMO requirements, but this ship is emitting so much, about 100 kgs more of CO2 into the atmosphere, because there is nothing to control this. Inefficient. This is an inefficient ship now. So that has made that we have to do something to control the efficiency. Existing ships, this was built in 2015. Now it is in 2000, it is an existing ship. How do we control the existing ships? That's how that existing ship energy efficiency, existing ship index system. So what they have done, IMO has adopted energy efficiency existing ship index and carbon intensity index for existing ships to ensure that existing ships take adequate measures to improve their carbon intensity index. Now this carbon intensity index, how we calculate, they have come out with the calculations, guidelines. There are guidelines, 4 or 5 guidelines are there. that how to get the carbon intensity index. And on the basis of carbon intensity index, the ships will be graded A, B, C, D, E. So this is to meet the target 70% by 2050. Any ship which cannot comply with the EXI requirement will be required to restrict their operation or phased out slowly. So I think in my presentation, is not revealed that grading of the ships as per CII, carbon intensity index, A, B, C, D, E. So ships must fall in grade A, grade B, or at least grade C. If a ship fall in grade D and E, then if he is consecutively for 2 years he is grade E, grade D, or 1 year he is grade E, that company has to submit a plan, improvement plan, that what you are going to do include your grade to at least C. Shipbuilders and designers are ready with the various now how the ship owner will do it. So shipbuilders and designers have ready with various new designs to retrofit to enable the ships to comply with EXI requirements, or there are many other ways. That is what we will be discussing. Now, may not be all companies, but there are certain companies who use the latest developments, which is going on. Okay. Now, but it is not being done always. So IMO wants that everybody must follow the developments. And that is what this EXI and CII is going to do. So how you get energy efficiency? Okay. By improving hull efficiency, you can get that EDI or EXI, CII. These things can be achieved by various ways. First one is that improving hull efficiency, improving propeller efficiency, improving the overall thermal efficiency of the propulsion plant. These are already developed, but there is that not all the owners are following this. Okay. So that carbon emission is high, even with the EDI. So what are the ways how the shipping companies, ship owners will be able to comply with the latest requirement of CII and EXI? Now let us see how we improve the efficiency. So on board ship, basic distribution of energy generated on ship. Suppose you burn fuel and produce energy, 100% energy, whatever it may be. 27% goes for cooling of the engine. This is roughly, okay, not for all engines, not for all ships. Okay, roughly, you know. The 27% goes to the cooling. 30% goes with the exhaust gas. 20% of the energy is required to as thrust energy, means give the thrust to the ship. And the thrust energy is for what? To overcome the friction. Overcome the friction. And 15% is going to propeller losses. 4% other losses. Now, if we reduce these losses, means this cooling loss means what we have to recover, and here reduce friction. Okay. Recover, reduce friction. So your fuel requirement will, and this is also increase the efficiency, propeller design. So what is done? That is what I explained now. Heat from exhaust and cooling system is recovered through waste heat recovery system. Propeller loss is minimized through advanced design of propeller. Thrust power is best utilized by minimizing the hull losses. Actually, why you require the thrust? For moving the ship from A to B, if there's no friction, there's no power will be required. No? Because of friction, we are requiring the power to move the cargo. Now that friction has to be reduced. Now, waste heat recovery, just for your knowledge, this is an advanced, this MAN BMW engine waste heat recovery system. The engine efficiency is above 49%, and overall efficiency goes much higher. What is being done here? Cooling, jacket cooling water, some of the heat of the jacket cooling water, like this engine, this is about 68 megawatt engine, and 14% of the 68 megawatt, you can see about 8-9 megawatt. That much of energy goes into waste if you don't recover. So it is being recovered here. And another area, the turbocharger, supercharging air, scavenge air. In the turbocharger, air is compressed and temperature comes to 193 degrees centigrade. So that heat we can take out and bring it to the exhaust steam system, and by which we can run the steam turbine to generate electricity. This is one waste heat recovery system. So we are reducing the losses.
Mr. Sarkar, just 1 minute, please. I think we are running. I mean, you have to kindly.
Okay. Yes, short. Please. I am towards the end. Okay. Now there are controllable pitch propeller designs. Controllable pitch propeller suitable for large ships. Fixed pitch propellers suitable for large ships. Muse duct, okay, for large ships. Propeller wash cap fins suitable for large ships. Cot nozzle, actually this is not for normal, these are for the tugs and all these things, slow ships. Propeller cap turbine, this is also suitable for all ships. And contra-rotating propeller, this is impractical because it's a very mechanical system. So this is the controllable pitch propeller arrangement. There is a arrangement inside which changes the speed, the pitch of the propeller blades. This is the advanced design of the propeller, fixed pitch propeller, but advanced design to get higher propeller efficiency. These are Muse duct. This is, that gives streamlining the water into the propeller. That gives about a 6 to 7% saving. This is propeller wash cap fins. There are some fins you add on the propeller wash cap. It can very easily, it can be used and gives about 3 to 5% saving. This is one type of advanced design of propeller by Wärtsilä. Improvement by the cleaning of the hull. Conventionally, you clean the hull. Earlier, we used to clean the hull every 2.5 years, dried up. But nowadays, every shipping company, they're keeping track of how much is the hull resistance. Okay. And from there, they are cleaning the hull more regularly, underwater cleaning. Use of bulbous valve. This is another attachment to the ship, which reduces the wave making resistance. And air lubrication. This is another very important and latest design. So this is the fouled hull. From the load diagram, we can find out where is the engine operating. So we can find out whether the hull is fouled or not. And without going to dry dock, underwater hull cleaning can be done. So fuel consumption goes down. And hull painting, that gives the hull friction. This is the bulbous valve, which is underwater and it uses wave making resistance. This gives between 12 to 15% saving compared to normal. And this is the air lubrication of hull. See, this is under the hull, this is the underwater picture. Under the hull, air is being injected, and a film of air is around the ship's hull, and it reduces friction. 15% of reduction of CO2 emission is achieved by this. When you start the system, see, this is the when system of the both power required and speed and the power is in this. But when you put the system on, speed is increasing, the power required is reducing. Okay, so that is what is that hull lubrication system effect. That is all from my side. So if any question answer, that we'll be discussing at the end of the program. I mean the deliberations. Thank you. Mr. Sen.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Actually, the question answer. I mean, I'm sorry
yes,
because this our timing, this such a
yeah, right.
system, timing of 20 minutes is a bit too less. So my apologies to the speakers, but it cannot be helped. Now, I think I'll request Mr. A.K. Singh to deliver his lecture, and I think the question answer part. I think mostly there'll be cadets. I think. I mean, you will. I mean, please see the speakers. Email addresses will be there, so you can kindly ask them, because we are running short of time. Probably question answer session we'll have to sort of skip. Okay, so Mr. Arun Kumar Singh, kindly start your speech. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sirs. Dr. H.O. Thackeray, President IEI. I'm having a little bit of problem on my screen. I'm not sure what I just did, because of which the screen has gone a bit haywire. Sorry for that. So small. I am really, really sorry about it. If somebody can help me in it, the screen has gone right on top due to some reason or the other. So
probably you can unshare and then come back again. You may unshare your screen and then open the respective file which you want to offer for slideshow, and then you may share the screen once again.
Okay, I have got the file over here, and I have to.
Yes, sir. It is coming, sir. It is coming.
It's coming. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you. Sorry about this thing. I'll just put this particular thing on the screen. And in the meanwhile, there is a small line on top. How do I get rid of that? Or is only the screen is seen to you the way I'm trying to present it? The search for carbon-free energy for shipping. Is that what you can see?
Yes, sir. Absolutely fine, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And on the onset, my respect to Dr. H.O. Thackeray, President IEI, Dr. Nirmal Das, Chairman, West Bengal State Center IEI, Dr. G. Ranganathan, Chairman, Committee of the Advancement of Technology and Engineering IEI, Dr. B.M. Bhatnagar, Chairman, Marine Engineering Division IEI, Engineer Mr. Sandeep Kumar Dev, Vice President IEI, Dr. Raju Basak, Honorary Secretary, West Bengal State Center IEI, Mr. Gautam Sen, my senior, Chairman, Engineering Division, Mr. S.K. Sarkar, my co-panelist, ex-director in charge, Mary and IMU, Mr. Amit Bhatnagar, Vice President, IME, India. Thank you very much, sirs, for giving me this particular opportunity to present the search for carbon-free energy for shipping, which is still a bit elusive. But let's go forward and see how things have developed over a period of time. The shipping industry transports about 90% of the tonnage of all traded goods, as per the ICS, which has done a very good research on this particular subject and come up. It can be a little bit more or less. That doesn't make much of a difference. The global shipping tonnage loaded annually increased from 3.8 billion to 11.8 billion tons between 1980 and 2019. worldwide. That is what United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, they concluded. In the last 150 years, the energy source for the propulsion of ships has undergone significant transformations, starting with sails, renewable energy. Some of it has been discussed by Mr. Sarkar. Please pardon me if a few things they get repeated. To the use of fossil fuels. The fossil fuels were the ones which created all the problems, creating greenhouse gases, and the environment got very badly impacted by it. Maritime transport was responsible for 1,076 million ton greenhouse gas emissions in 2018, about 2.9% of the global anthropogenic GHG emissions through various sources. Its predicted emissions in 2050 will grow from 1,000 to 1,050 million ton per year. Efforts are underway to reduce carbon emissions by at least 50% in 2050 compared to 2008 levels, as per IMO goals. Now, here are some of the things with the 2008 baseline. If the control of CO2 emission is not taken care of, the trajectory is going to take the path of the red line. And the IMO's initial GHG strategy that by 2050, we are going to reduce the greenhouse gas emission by 50%. As Mr. Sarkar also said, that the carbon dioxide emission is going to be reduced by 70%. But the main goal is having a zero carbon dioxide emission and reduce the greenhouse gas temperature as much as possible. So if the carbon, your greenhouse gas emission is reduced to zero by 2040, the temperature increase in the environment is not going to go beyond 1.5 degrees centigrade. If it goes beyond 2050, it is going to be in excess of 2 degrees centigrade. And as Mr. Sarkar very rightly pointed out, we are going to have quite a bit of a problem as far as our environment is concerned, especially the glaciers. They are going to gradually melt down. I saw a video the other day where somebody had taken a very good a shot about the glaciers melting down the size of Manhattan city, and nearly the height, 3 times the height of the tallest building in the US, Manhattan. So we can very well imagine the amount of water that is going to be produced, the level of seawater which is going to come up, the environmental temperature which is going to go up. The shipping sector set the goal in 2014 again to reduce the CO2 emissions by 50% in 2050 compared to 2020. For short sea shipping, that is near coastal waters and all, and inland shipping, it will have LNG in combination with biofuel as transitional fuel during this particular period. There are other distincts also which we can follow up. That is what we are going to discuss. This is how the CO2 emissions in million tons it took place, starting with 1990. We can see from the year 2008, the baseline for IMO. Basically, it has been practically constant up to 2020, a little bit of increase. But if the trend continues and the shipping industry keeps on increasing, it is going to follow the direct path, and then the goal set by IMO is supposed to be reducing it to this particular light green part, very close to about 420 million tons of CO2 emission. If we have zero carbon, that is what the goal is. If we can continue keep on continuing with our research and find a fuel which will be able to produce zero carbon, by 2050, the emission may come down to zero, but that is just one of the things which is there in the offing. Until 2030, the focus is predominantly on your biodiesel, and until 2050 on transition of LNG and bio-LNG. In 2020, there was a shift from using heavy fuel oil to using light fuel oil to power ships. In January 2020, the International Maritime Organization, IMO, put a cap on sulfur content of marine fuels. You have to use less than 0.5% sulfur content. And that brought down the consumption of heavy fuel oil from nearly 172.5 million metric tons to about 100.5 million metric tons. And it was supplemented by low sulfur diesel oil. The rest of your liquefied natural gases and other fuel, they remain pretty much constant. It did not increase in this particular period. Now, what can we have the short-term technology measures to reduce emissions? The short-term measures considered are ship and propeller design measures can reduce GHG emissions, as Mr. Sarkar said, by reducing resistance measures identified can each provide a GHG reduction potential ranging from 0.5% to 10%, depending upon what we are using as alternate power assistance technology, whether it is Fleckner rotors driven by air, towing kites, sails, solar panels, shoreside power. Now, shoreside power, it can only be used in port when the ship is alongside. Again, what is the energy source for that particular power should be taken into consideration. In case we are using fossil fuel, there is not going to be any reduction. GHG emissions this can all reduce the GHG emissions from 0.5 to 15% and up to 100% as far as shoreside power in ports only is concerned, in case we are not using fossil fuel for generating power. Operational and voyage optimization measures that offer GHG savings ranging from 0 to 38%. These measures include slow steaming, advanced port logistics, increasing port operation efficiency by at least 20%, automation and IT tools development, reduce costs and risk, enhanced forecast, faster deliveries via more optimal routes. All these particular things are there in the offing, and they have been used for a very long time, but these are not the things which we are looking forward for reducing the greenhouse gas emission. Longer term shifts to alternative fuels. To achieve IMO's ambition to reduce carbon emission by at least 50% in 2050 compared to 2008 levels, switch to alternative zero GHG emission fuels will be a necessity. And if we cannot do that, it is going to be very difficult to reach the goal that IMO has set. The trend shows transition will first apply to short sea shipping and later to long distance shipping. Fuel investigated have been categorized into two main groups: drop-in fuels, which can be used in the existing fleet largely without engine modifications up to certain blend limits, and others. Now, when we talk about shipping, we must understand that there are set rules and regulations as far as the combustion of fuel is concerned, and the engines, changing the whole engine setup for the old ships is going to be a bit difficult, but there can be some fuel which can be used without changing or doing any retrofit as far as the engines are concerned. Then we have to go for alternative fuels which require significant engine fuel system modifications, alternative engines and or infrastructure. Unless we do that, we will not be able to achieve it. The other drop-in, the most important drop-in fuels that we have in the present day is the fatty acid methyl ester, FAME, compatible in blends containing up to a 2017 FAME, although the current standard for distillate fuel ISO 817 2070 limits FAME content to to 7%. The main barriers to future uptake includes ensuring sustainability, whether we will be able to produce so much of fatty acid methyl ester or not, because of the feedstocks which is required to make this particular fuel, and competition with other transport sectors. If they are cheaper, then making this particular fuel is not going to be of much use to us. Then we can go for hydrotreated vegetable oil. HVO, it is compatible with the existing infrastructure and engine systems, subject to approval by the manufacturers. Now, most of the time, we have to go to the manufacturers whether the fuel for which the engines have been made will be able to use the alternate fuel or not. Minor modifications may be required. There is no upper limit as far as blending HVO is concerned. We can use HVO in the present stage without any modification as far as the engine is concerned. The main barrier to future uptake include ensuring sustainability of feedstock, competition with other transport sectors, the same as FAME. Then we can use dimethyl ether. DME has been a known substitute for diesel for more than 20 years, but yet to be widely used as an alternative maritime fuel. DME can be used with marine diesel oil in blends of equal to or less than 40%. It's not a permanent solution, but during the transit phase, we can use this particular fuel to keep on reducing the carbon emission from ships. DME use will need engine retrofit or specific engine design. The barrier to future uptake is the need for green DME production and supply. That is, no more use of fossil fuel along with it. Other alternative fuels, LNG, liquefied natural gas, a fossil fuel with a lower carbon content than HFO. LNG as a marine bunker fuel has already reached market maturity. It emits 25% less CO2 than common marine fuels and lower nitrogen oxide and sulfur oxide and particulate emissions. It can only be used as transitional fuel till zero carbon emission fuel are used for substitution. This is not going to be a permanent solution. The main barriers to future uptake include life cycle emissions. That means during its lifetime, if the carbon dioxide is not utilized by nature, it is going to keep on accumulating in the ecosystem. Bunkering infrastructure, that is also one of the things. And while we are burning LNG, the methane slip that keeps on producing your carbon content in the atmosphere, another big deterrent. Another emerging consideration for LNG is bio-LNG, liquefied biomethane, and LSM, liquefied synthetic methane, having zero carbon emission compatible with LNG fueled ships. So that is one of this thing which is supposed to be, we are supposed to be looking forward to. Biofuels, net zero fuel, biomethane, bioethanol, and biomethanol produced from biogenic feedstock derived from plant, agricultural waste, algae for feedstock for future. Biofuels emit CO2 when burned in an internal combustion engine. Biofuel retrieves CO2 from atmosphere during the production of their feedstock, thus labeled net zero fuel from a life cycle perspective. Whatever CO2 is generated, if the feedstock can take it back as far as the environment is concerned, the net zero fuel thing can be utilized. Methanol, that is another fuel that can be used, mainly produced from natural gas. It can be produced from a number of different feedstock resources, including renewable resources such as black liquor from pulp and paper mills, agricultural waste or forest thinning, and recycled CO2 captured from power plants. The main barriers to fuel uptake include green methanol production and supply and adequate infrastructure. Both of that is lacking at this particular juncture, and various industries are looking into it, that how to go about it. This is one of the diagram from ASOS, that how oil crops, waste oil, animal fat, sugar, starch crops lignocellulosic biomass, organic waste, residues, they can be extracted and they can be changed into bio-oil, biodiesel, ethanol, butanol, substitute natural gas, hydrogen, methanol, methyl ether, biodiesel, which all are supposed to be carbon zero fuels as we keep on going. But the main thing is this, that how we are going to utilize this particular thing in a laboratory and make this particular thing useful as far as the industry is concerned. Another fuel which we can look after is ammonia. Until recently, there has been little motivation to explore ammonia as maritime fuel. If synthesized from renewable resources, that means while we are producing it, if the resources are supposed to be renewable, through sunlight, through wind energy, through other energy which can be renewed, green ammonia is as a fuel is carbon free. Green ammonia production uses the renewable electrolysis process to separate hydrogen atoms from oxygen atoms within water using electrolyzers which are already in extensive commercial use. So there should not be any difficulty in utilizing ammonia in future. Greenhouse gas reduction potential of ammonia depends on the percentage of electricity generated for renew. As I said, that if we have got renewable energy, it is going to become carbon free as far as generation is concerned. The main barriers to future uptake include green ammonia production and supply, price parity, and availability of solid oxide fuel cell technology for future use in fuel cells. Hydrogen, when hydrogen is combusted, the process is carbon free. And if the hydrogen is synthesized using renewable power, it is a completely carbon neutral fuel with zero CO2 emissions. Hydrogen has a very low volumetric density, and that is why storing it becomes a bit difficult, but people are looking into this particular aspect also, that how to store it at very high pressure at very, very low temperatures. Main barriers to future uptake include green hydrogen productions and supply, cost and price parity, and safety concerns in storage on board. It will only begin to scale from the late 2030s, reaching competitiveness in the 2040s, and meeting only 5% of global energy demand by 2050 as per industry predictions. But there are too many people who are working on it, and you never know how things are going to develop in the near future, and the generation of hydrogen is going to be available quite freely. Batteries have been used as an energy carrier for short sea shipping since 2015. Compared to using conventional fuels, emissions of CO2, nitrogen oxide, and sulfur oxide are reduced when using full electric battery, and hybrid battery and diesel configurations can also be used when we are using during the transitional phase. The energy efficiency of electrical propulsion systems can even exceed 90% compared to about 40 to 50% for conventional propulsion with diesel engines. Sector stakeholders do not foresee batteries as a realistic energy carrier option for deep sea shipping. That is one of the things. The main barriers to future uptake include fire risk, range, how long it is going to run, cost, weight to size, and end of life disposal. Where are we going to dispose of these particular batteries once they come to the end of their lives? Fuel cells, using fuel cells instead of internal combustion engines can reduce emissions. If the fuel used is hydrogen, as we have talked before, the only products produced in the fuel cells reactions are water, electricity, and excess heat. Powered by a fuel produced by using renewable energy, the carbon reduction potential of fuel cells is 100%. That is one of the things. But the main barriers for future uptake include capital and maintenance costs, proving the feasibility of scale up. We cannot increase that particular thing on overnight. Bunkering availability and the longevity of fuel cells. This is one of the IMO, this thing, the requirement from natural gases, the propulsion of fuel, that is the LNG part of it, and the indirect use of natural gases is for fuel feedstock. From there, we can have now LNG, as we can see over here, transitional roles for LNG, temporary role for LNG, limited role for LNG. Yes, limited role for LNG. We have got in this particular thing, but the green and blue part of it is biofuels, hydrogen and ammonia, carbon-based synthetic fuels, that is the biofuels of the future. Energy source.
Singh, please.
Yes, please. I will be concluding in another 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
With your kind permission.
Sure, sure. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So the hydrogen and ammonia, that is the future fuel that we are looking at. And this is one of the way we are supposed to be processing it. After assessing each zero carbon fuels features from an environmental, economical, and technical perspective, ammonia and hydrogen stand out as the most promising future zero carbon bunker fuels due to their scalability, cost effectiveness, and low GHG life cycle emissions in the long term. The search for ultimate fuel to attain zero carbon emission continues in a positive note. The shipping industry has already weathered 3 energy transitions during its long history, from woman power to wind, from wind to coal, from coal to oil and LNG. Both developed and developing countries, they stand to benefit from a wide range of business and development opportunities. Ship owners or charterers are responsible for fuel charges, operational measures, technological investment, and cargo loading. An incentive for ship owner to implement energy efficiency measures depends mainly on the charter rates. Non-accrual of benefits of energy efficiency measures act as a barrier in adopting or ordering new ships and while retrofitting vessels. So until and unless the industry looks into this particular aspect, ship owners may not be very much interested in new technology because they have to invest a lot to get their returns back. A way out of this can be found to compensate the ship owners and charterers in implementing zero carbon measures. Importantly, search for fuel for marine vessels should come to an end at the earliest. IMO goals of 50% reduction of CO2 emission 2050, paving path for zero emission. The transition of the shipping industry towards ammonia and hydrogen is likely to change the landscape of the global bunker fuel market, creating new opportunities for developing countries, particularly for those with significant renewable energy resources such as Brazil, India, Malaysia, and Mauritius. This is one of the things which IMO has given, that what type of fuel is supposed to be used. 50%, 90% is supposed to be for full electric. Bio, LNG, LPG, 90% biofuel, third generation, 80 to 100% hydrogen and other synthetic fuels. 1 to 10% is the energy management. That is what we are going to do by having a good distinct infrastructure as far as propeller or the ship side is concerned. The references are from various sources, and wishing all a sustainable shipping with net zero. Thank you all, and sorry for the time that I have taken extra. That's all from my end.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
With apologies, I'll request Mr. Abid Bhatnagar to start his lecture, because I know it is a very, very broad spectrum subject, but then the timing is very short, sir. Anyway, kindly. Mr. Bhatnagar, please.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, the organizers, Institution of Engineers India, and providing me this opportunity to be speaking among the stalwarts of industry and the knowledge-based organization IMU. The subject is very close to my heart, and as IRS, we had been conducting a 1 full day training program on this these days to make the industry aware about that. But incidentally, I will say that, Mr. Singh has covered major part of what I wanted to cover. So hopefully I'll not delay you for your dinners. With this, I'll just go through the presentation, and the duplicated portion I will skip through in faster mode, if you allow me, sir. And at the same time, I had also been seeing some questions raised by some of the participants. Probably I may be able to answer some of those questions during the course of my presentation. So this is what I'm going to cover: the background, candidate fuels and technologies, which major portion has already been covered by Mr. Arun Kumar Singh. Comparison of various fuel candidates, rules and regulations, which I will cover in very short, and then study on present active ship fleet, which also I have compressed a bit so that we can justify the timing which is allotted today. Okay, so I'll just quickly go through that. In 1988, the UN Intergovernmental Panel, that IPCC, was constituted, and then 92, the framework for Convention of Climate Change was created, and in 97, MARPOL adopted MARPOL Convention, that is Annex 6, which was that was the beginning to consider CO2 reduction strategy. Actually, that was not the time. Incidentally, MARPOL was only related to initially the polluting gases. Later on, the GHG gases were also included in that. And then in 2003, Assembly Resolution 923/23 was adopted at IMO Assembly to identify and develop mechanism needed to achieve reduction of GHG emissions from shipping. And then came EEDI, which Mr. Sarkar has very well explained. And then 2015, COP21, that famous Paris Agreement on climate change, which brought in MEPC 69 in 2016. And then in 2018, we have got IMO initial strategy on reduction of GHG gases. So this is how this is the journey, and I'll just go through which other speakers have already covered. So I need not have to revisit the whole thing once again. Now, this is what is important. When we talk about these candidate measures, it can be divided into three different methodologies. That is short-term, which is initiate and research and development, activities on low and zero carbon fuels. So which has to be between 2018 and 2023. So which is already in progress. And medium term effective update, that is the effective update of alternate low and zero carbon fuels, including update of national action plans. Each country has to come out with that. So this has been planned between 2023 to 2030. I'm sorry about that. There's a typing error from my side. And then long-term measures to pursue development of zero carbon or fossil fuel free combustion. So that is to be finalized and agreed by MEPC, which will be beyond what is going to happen beyond 2030. So we have got greenhouse gases. Now here, what is important is global warming potential, GWP. Now when we see the concentration, we have got water vapor, which contributes to 36 to 72% and has got highest concentration. Then we have got carbon dioxide, which has got 400 ppm, and which consists of 9 to 26%, and then we have got methane and ozone. Though water vapor has got highest contribution, but the life is very short because you get rains after that. So I think this major portion was already covered, so I will try and skip this. I just wanted to show here that we have got CO2, nitric oxide, and we have got methane, which has got high global warming potential. Now, these were a few fuels which I wanted to discuss, but then my job has been, reduced by Mr. A.K. Singh. So I will just move ahead from here. I'll quickly go through. This was already covered, so I'll be a little fast on this. As far as LNG is concerned, the storage temperature is well known. You got 106 minus 62, and then storage pressure. So now, what is important here to discuss is, this is what I wanted to discuss here, that there is an extensive experience of handling LNG, because LNG as cargo on gas carriers is there for the last almost 50 years. Now, IGC code contains detailed requirement as regard to carriage of LNG as cargo. Further, IGF code part A-1 deals with uses of LNG as fuel on board ship, and large number of ships have been using this without any accident, though it is considered to be very unsafe in normal terms. So what happens? CO2, SO2, NOx, and particular matter emissions are much reduced as compared to those for conventional fuel. However, as other speakers have also spoken about the methane slip, but then the technology is improving, so this methane slip will also, over a period of time, should go away, or it will reduce to larger extent. Now, FAME also was discussed, so whatever has been discussed, I am not going to repeat it. I will just come towards what are the outcome of various technical discussions on FAME. That is, IRS has been proposing of use of B20, that is 20% blending, and the permission of this 20% blending has to be obtained from statutory authority as per MARPOL Annex 6 requirement regulation 3. And I am happy to share with you that my colleagues have been working on this, and the trial of B20 has been successfully completed on board ships of one of the shipping companies in India. So these are the guidelines which are available in terms of best practices for fuel oil suppliers for assuring the quality of delivery to these ships as per MEPC circular 875. Now, what needs to be done for the bunker supplier, that the supplier has to register in accordance with MS Notice 3 of 2014. In accordance with MARPOL Annex 6 Regulation 3, and the base of and diesel fuel, this has to be in accordance with ASTM standard D 6751-08. That is the specification for blending of DM grade fuels. And the test report of the sample which has to be obtained from accredited laboratory as being followed in terms of BDN on board. And another important factor is the flashpoint of B20 fuel is to comply with SOLAS requirement as well. That is required with respect to the safety. I will not go deep into this. The slide is already there with you. The concurrence from engine manufacturer is extremely important, because the engine should be able to, first thing, should be able to perform to the required power, and then various purifiers, overboard discharges, ODMs, that should also be compatible when we are using this type of fuel. And then the engine needs to be stripped down at least for the initial days. One second. Then I will just quickly go through HVO, which I think already covered. So I think I can go a little faster here. Methanol is very well covered. So I'll go a little fast. Well, as for methanol also, but as it has already been stated that the SOx, NOx, and particular matter emissions are very much less for biomethanol. Now here, when we are talking about the production methodology is also very important, because when the green fuel is to be produced, the method which are adopted to produce this fuel, those methods are also supposed to be green. Then we have got ethanol already being covered. Then DME already covered. So ammonia, ammonia is likely to be a good candidate in future. However, handling of ammonia, as already been discussed, has got certain issues which needs to be dealt with. Then we have got hydrogen, which also was covered by Mr. Singh. Now, what all measures which can be used for this? There can be methodology of onboard carbon capture. So installation of scrubber to capture CO2 from the flue gases, installation of dedicated CO2 storage tank, which would typically store the liquefied CO2, discharge of CO2 at receptor ports. So this infrastructure needs to be developed. And when you have onboard CO2 capture system, ship can continue to use conventional marine fuel. You don't have to shift over to the new fuel. Installation of scrubber system will burden the existing engine room space, and power requirements will also be affected. Installation of dedicated CO2 tank would lead to sacrifice of further dead weight for existing ship. It has to be, if it has to be done. And new ships, of course, the owner may not like to have such system. So then additional active substances would be required to be stored on board for the ship for the scrubber function to capture the CO2, and then requirement of additional infrastructure at national level for safely discharge of CO2, which preferably has to be underground. So these are certain challenges with respect to onboard carbon capture. Nuclear power ship is another possibility which navies have already been using. Submarines, everyone is well aware about it. The concern are with respect to design, installation, and operational costs. The leakage of radiation, which we had seen at Chernobyl once upon a time, and Fukushima reactors, disposal of waste fuel after being consumed, reactor protection for typical hazards such as collision, grounding, etc. Steel embankment, and then what to do when you are decommissioning it. Notwithstanding that, there would be advantages with respect to clean energy sources, because there will be no NOx, SOx produced in this. CO2 may be very little. A very low bunkering frequency. Maybe you may require every 5 years or so. So, when you are going in for special survey, just add the fuel at that time. Low storage space requirement for fuel. Delivery of high rated power performance. Nuclear reactor on board ships have delivered power up to 170,000 kilowatt, which as of now, no other fuel may be able to achieve. Battery power ship, there was some question also on this, and the question was raised. So I just wanted to share this news item for everyone. We have classed a hybrid catamaran, which is battery power ferry, which is first in the series of 23 vessels which are being built at Cochin shipyard. And this is designed for shore charging and certified to carry 100 passengers and propelled by hybrid electric propulsion system by use of lithium titanium oxide batteries. Okay. Now, there is little comparison I would like to show you here for fuel storage space capacity. Now, this is what you will have to see when you compare the equivalent fuel storage capacity which is required with respect to HFO. Now, you see hydrogen will require maximum space. Now, if you say HFO is 1, so you have got good candidates as FAME and HVO. And then you have got ethanol and LNG. So that means you have to sacrifice more of the cargo storage space on board. Now, coming to cost, here you can see that least cost fuel is LNG at this moment of time, and ammonia happens to be the most expensive fuel. Same is the case for methanol or ethanol. But probably once the technology improves, then we may have a situation whereby we will have the good candidates like methanol and ammonia may have lesser cost. Now, this is what is the CO2 emissions status under present circumstances. If you see here, FAME and HVO shows potential for meeting the IMO GHG targets. You can see the IMO 2030 line showing there. So okay. Now, when we talk about CO2 emissions, now CO2 emissions, you can see here the most alternate fuels show potential for CO2 emissions reduction that you can clearly see here. Bioethanol, biomethanol as liquid biogas along with bio-DME demonstrate good potential. Liquid hydrogen also demonstrate potential, but needs to be produced using renewable source of energy to, as I said, to make it green. Actually. Now, coming to the availability of these fuels. So when we see here the equivalent, what I'm trying to say is equivalent weight is all alternate fuel plotted versus the conventional marine fuel consumption. So LNG has adequate production at this point of time, but it is also consumed for industrial purposes and other land-based industries. Biofuel production is shared by road, aviation, and marine transport as well. And then ammonia production may be scaled up in future, but then that will still fall short because presently the production is comparatively very less. Now, there was some question also about this. Now, present day marine engines may be amendable to use the blends of biofuel or even neat biofuels such as FAME, HVO, SVO, biodiesels, taking due precautions. Engine using LNG and methanol are available in markets. These fuels are also gaining some prominence among the industry. Engines using ammonia as fuel are under development. It is expected that such engine may be commercially available from 2023 upon verification of successful testing, which is still in process. Then marine engines using liquid hydrogen as fuel are in preliminary phase or pre-preliminary stage for development. So it is too early to make any comment about it. Coming to rules and regulations, this is what I wanted to share with you. That is biodiesel FAME. It has already been covered under SOLAS, and then various alcohols, gas fuels, and fuel cells. They have been either covered in IGF code or interim guidelines have been issued by IMO on this. Now, this is what has already been developed by IRS, which is available in public domain. And anyone would like to have some more information on this, they can download the information from IRS website. Now, coming to present fleet. The oil consumption, the fuel consumption between 12 and 2018. If you see here, it can be observed that the top 5 type of ships, we are talking about international seagoing cargo ships, consume maximum fuel on total basis. Here you can see HFO, MDO, LNG, and methanol. So it can be observed that LNG is used as fuel for nearly 50% of LNG carriers. Now, with respect to fuel used by consumer, now here you can see main engine, auxiliary engine, and boiler. The main engine is the main consumer of fuel for top 5 type of ships. For oil tanker and chemical tanker, the relative proportion of fuel consumed by boiler is higher when we compare to other ships. Now, this is the present status of present fleet which is operating. So we have got 14 ships using methanol as fuel. All of them happens to be chemical tankers. Then we have got 34 ships using LPG as fuel. These are more than 50,000 ton dead weight. Then 299 ships using battery propulsion or battery assisted propulsion, and 3 ships powered by hydrogen used within a fuel cell. And then we have got 1 icebreaker vessel which is using nuclear fuel. Then we have got 675 ships are fitted to use cold ironing, that is shore power. Shore power, even in India, it is picking up. JNPT is the first port which is going ahead with installation of shore power, and as IRS, we are supporting that. Now here, 515 ships are container ships out of 675. Then we have got 357 ships using gas as primary fuel. This is excluding the gas carriers. And we got 236 ships assessed as ready to be retrofitted with machinery for using gas as fuel. And we have got 4,323 ships fitted with scubber technology as per the data available today. And 13 ships fitted to operate with solar power assistance, and 16 ships fitted to operate with wind assisted propulsion. Then we have got 138 ships will be battery powered or battery power assisted. Then 51 ships will use shore power at berth. 651 ships to use gas as fuel. 91 container ships, 49 passenger ships, 58 oil tankers. And these figures I am explaining you that the world is moving much ahead of what we had been thinking, and then there is a need for this awareness to be brought into the industry. So 29 ships by methanol, 305 ships are being fitted with scrubbers here. This is 7 RO ships with solar power technology, then 4 ships to use wind assisted propulsion, CO2 tankers, 2 of them are under construction, and then 4 of them are presently already in service. Now, this is what we talk about bunkering for ships which are under construction. That is biofuel, LNG, methanol, ethanol, ammonia, and experience is available for carriage of these ships as ship's fuel. For liquid hydrogen, there's some more study is required as of now, so it will take some time. With this, I would like to conclude with the following statements. Various candidates are available to support IMO decarbonization drive. However, there is no single solution to the problem. Rather, several options needed to be explored. Alternate fuel production, as on present day, may not be sufficient to completely do away with conventional marine fuels. I'm talking about today's scenario. Biofuels are excellent fuels which have less impact on the storage requirements, can be used in present marine engines, of course, with certain modifications and operational requirements need to be addressed, and do not have significantly less energy content. However, substantially, these fuels is to be explored. Sustainability is to be explored further, as well as it may be noted that the land transport and aviation sector would also demand these fuels. So there would be a competition to use these fuels. Onboard carbon capture may be a good interim solution. However, it will call for facilities at the port for reception on board's generated CO2. Infrastructure for disposal of CO2 will also be necessary at that moment of time. It may be important to note that this is a problem which marine industry may not be able to solve single-handedly, but would rather need efforts from all sectors. And it's heartening to see that entire top of IEI is sitting today and contributing towards this cause. LNG at present is the fuel which will help to reduce CO2 emissions to an extent, and its experience is also available as fuel on board. However, in long run, options needs to be explored to generate LNG from biomass in a viable manner. Availability of renewable power generation across the globe, along with the carbon capture from industry plants on land, would play an important role in determining the emissions from the marine industry. Ammonia appears to be a useful candidate as an alternate fuel. It will also depend upon the technology on board to use it in combustion engine or as a fuel cell. That is yet to be seen. Host of biofuel developed from waste biomass are available in principle. However, their feasibility is to be checked as to whether their production can be scaled up efficiently, sustainably, and viably. The age of fleet, which is very important, is comparatively young. That is around 15 years or less. Thus, phasing out these ships from service has to be gradual. Use of biofuels or biofuel blends or LNG or onboard carbon capture may be useful to reduce GHG from these ships until long-term sustainable candidate is established. In the end, I would say the bunkering frequency would be subject to a change, considering the option such as ammonia and hydrogen would need larger fuel storage tank, as I have shown in the previous slides. It may be more important and more practical for ships to undergo more frequent bunkering rather than reserve large storage space on board. So for that, we require more bunkering ports or bunkering ports in vicinity to each other. The use of shore power supply is a low-hanging fruit, which may assist in reducing emissions from 6 to 20% depending upon the particular type of ship. However, the shore power generation is essentially required from renewable energy source or a source which employs carbon capture. This, I thank you all for tolerating me, especially, delaying your dinner. Thank you. Over to Mr. Gautam Sen.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Now, I actually previously this our moderator was supposed to be Mr. Abhijit Banerjee, but unfortunately he couldn't log in. So now I have to work as the moderator. So as you have already reminded me of the dinner, I think I'll go as short as possible on this summarization. First was Mr. S.K. Sarkar. I'm becoming very short. Release of his summary. Release of greenhouse gas from fossil fuel started increasing after industrial revolution in 19th century and subsequent growth of population. Greenhouse gas accumulation, if not controlled, will cause rise of sea level and harmful changes in climate. International Maritime Organization has decided to reduce greenhouse gas emission from ships 50% by 2030 through energy efficiency measures modified Marpol Annex 6. IMO has introduced EEXI and Carbon Intensity Index for ships. As per Carbon Intensity Index, ships will be graded as A, B, C, D, and E. Both D and E grade ships must improve their grade to C or above. Mr. Sarkar has explained various aspects of ship design for energy efficiency. Some of the new technology can be used for new ships to have high carbon intensity index. The energy saving methods include hull modification, hull lubrication, waste heat recovery system, etc. Existing ships can have these features as retrofit also for improvement of CII. Now I will summarize Mr. Arun Kumar Singh's lecture. Synopsis is, in the last 150 years, the energy source for the propulsion of ships has undergone significant transformation, starting with sails, renewable energy, through the use of fossil fuels. It is predicted that greenhouse gas emission from ships in 2050 will grow from 1,000 to 1,500 million ton per year. Efforts are underway to reduce greenhouse gas emission by at least 50% in 2050 compared to 2008 levels, from about 950 million tons to 420 million tons, effectively requiring 85% reduction of carbon dioxide emission from ships. Now, Mr. Amit Bhatnagar, he has just now finished, so I have just written the bullet points. Mr. Amit Bhatnagar, speaking on carbon intensity index improvement for ships, touched on candidate fuels and technologies, comparison of fuel candidates, rules and regulations, study of present active ship fleet. He concluded by covering the takeaways from these studies. His presentation covered detailed information about a couple of fuels regarding which more work has taken place, and a brief mention of about 10 other fuels. So I think that is the end of my summary. Now I request Dr. Raju Vasak to give the vote of thanks and end of the today's webinar, please. Thank you, Mr. Raju Vasak, please.
Hello. Hello, sir. Is it audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to propose the vote of thanks. It is my proud privilege to extend my sincere thanks and gratitude to all the distinguished participants in the technical webinar on the theme Improvement of Carbon Intensity Index for Ships, organized by the Marine Engineering Division of West Bengal State Center, IEI, through online platform. At the outset, I convey my sincere thanks to the panelists, Mr. S.K. Sarkar, ex-director, Marine Engineering and Research Institute, Kolkata, Mr. Arun Kumar Singh, faculty, Department of Marine Engineering, Indian Maritime University, Mr. Amit Bhatnagar, Vice President, Institute of Marine Engineering, on today's technical webinar, who have very nicely deliberated their lecture. My sincere thanks also goes to my colleague, Dr. Nirmal Das, Chairman of West Bengal State Center, IEI. My heartfelt thanks also goes to Dr. H.O. Thakre, President of IEI, Mr. Sandeep Kumar Dev, Vice President IEI, Dr. B.M. Bhandarkar, Chairman, Marine Engineering Division Board, IEI, and Dr. G. Ranganath, Chairman, CATE, IEI. My heartfelt thanks also goes to Mr. Abhijit Banerjee, Honorary Secretary, Institute of Marine Engineers, India, Kolkata branch, and moderator of this program. The same feeling also being showered to all the members of the council and division board members of MRDB, all the members of the committee West Bengal State Center IEI, and all the members of the Marine Engineering Divisional Subcommittee, Director Technical IEI, and his team for their wholehearted support to make the program success. Last but not the least, my sincere thanks also goes to all who have behind the screen and giving their silent support in this technical webinar. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sir, with permission of the chair, can I end the seminar? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, please.
I'm ending this webinar, sir, with the permission of the chair.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you also. Good night, sir.
Thank you. Good night.